He once flew across the world in a private jet, sipping coffee above the clouds while markets moved at his command. At 29, Sam Bankman-Fried was the face of crypto, a billionaire who dressed like a college kid, slept on beanbags, and spoke about making money to give it away. The world saw a prodigy. What they didn't see was the storm forming beneath his empire. Born in Stanford, California, in 1992, Sam grew up surrounded by logic and law. Both his parents were professors at Stanford, people who debated ethics over dinner. He studied physics at MIT, obsessed with numbers, probabilities, and the hidden order behind chaos. But crypto gave him something academia never could: speed, risk, and the feeling of control. In 2017, he launched Alameda Research, a trading firm that seemed to print money. 2 years later came FTX, a crypto exchange that promised fairness and transparency. By 2021, it was worth over $30 billion. He shared stages with presidents, celebrities, and investors who called him the next Warren Buffett. To millions, he wasn't just a trader, he was a movement. But wealth that rises too fast often hides cracks. Inside FTX, the walls were already trembling. Money blurred, trust evaporated, and one rumor was all it took for everything to fall apart. From private jet to prison cell, his story asks a haunting question. How far can brilliance go before it blinds itself? Sam Bankman-Fried grew up in a world where intelligence was currency. His parents were both law professors at Stanford, known for their sharp minds and sharp questions. At dinner, the talk was never about gossip or sports. It was about ethics, systems, and why people make the choices they do. Sam listened, absorbing everything. He was quiet, analytical, and restless. Numbers spoke to him in ways words never could. By high school, he was already solving problems that left others dizzy: puzzles, logic, algorithms. When he entered MIT, he chose physics, the language of order inside chaos. But what fascinated him most wasn't the universe, it was uncertainty. He once said he wanted to find the edges where reason breaks. That curiosity would later define both his genius and his downfall. After graduation, he joined a small trading firm in New York called Jane Street. There, he learned how markets breathe, how billions move quietly, second by second. He mastered arbitrage, the art of spotting tiny price differences and turning them into profit. But something inside him grew uneasy. He didn't just want to make money. He wanted to make impact. In 2017, when the crypto wave began to rise, he saw not speculation but opportunity. He founded Alameda Research, a trading firm designed to exploit inefficiencies in the digital market. At first, it was a few laptops, a small team, and sleepless nights. The profits came quickly, too quickly. In months, Alameda was moving hundreds of millions through digital tokens, taking advantage of market gaps that others hadn't even noticed. Sam believed he was building more than a company. He thought he was engineering a new system, one where technology, math, and moral intent could coexist. He called it effective altruism. Make as much money as possible, then give it away to fix the world. To his followers, it sounded noble. To investors, it sounded safe. But to Sam, it was a logic. Game one, he was sure he could win. When he created FTX in 2019, it was the natural next move. He wanted to control the platform where trading happened, not just participate in it. The company's rise was meteoric. Within 2 years, FTX became a household name in crypto. Its ads ran during the Super Bowl. Its logo appeared on stadiums. Sam was hailed as a visionary who would make finance fair again. Behind that public image was a young man chasing balance between logic and emotion, idealism and greed. He didn't seek fame. It came as a side effect of his ambition. He worked 18-hour days, lived with his team in shared penthouses, and talked endlessly about building a better system. But every empire built on speed carries invisible cracks. And the faster it grows, the deeper those cracks run. For Sam, the dream of saving the world was no longer a thought experiment. It was his life's equation, one he would keep solving until it collapsed. By 2021, Sam Bankman-Fried had become more than a name. He was a symbol. FTX wasn't just another crypto exchange. It was a movement wrapped in data, ambition, and charm. Investors trusted him. Politicians wanted his advice. Celebrities wanted his name on their brand. He moved through the world like someone who had cracked the code of money itself. While other billionaires flaunted cars or yachts, Sam wore shorts and a wrinkled t-shirt. He spoke softly, avoided luxury, and donated millions to political and humanitarian causes. He called it earning to give. To the public, he was the rare billionaire who seemed uncorrupted by wealth. Inside the glass towers of FTX, energy pulsed like electricity. Young engineers slept on the desks. Traders monitored screens that glowed 24 hours a day. Every new listing, every spike in trading volume felt like a victory against the old financial order. Sam believed he was building something historic, a bridge between Wall Street and the future. In 2021, the company raised billions in funding. Its valuation soared past $30 billion. Commercials aired during the Super Bowl, featuring movie stars declaring, "Don't miss out." FTX logos appeared on stadiums and Formula One cars. Every headline fed the myth of the crypto king. But what made Sam magnetic wasn't just success, it was conviction. He spoke of risk with a mathematician's calm, as if probability could bend to his will. When asked about regulation, he smiled and said, "We welcome it." When markets trembled, he tweeted reassurances in lowercase letters. He made chaos sound rational. At the peak, he lived in a penthouse in the Bahamas, a $30 million apartment shared with 9 co-workers. Meetings blurred into nights of strategy and caffeine. Money flowed faster than time. FTX acquired rivals, sponsored conferences, and positioned itself as the future of finance. Even as whispers grew about Alameda's unusual advantages, most brushed it off. Sam's reputation was his shield. He was the golden boy who could do no wrong. And he believed it too. He believed that rules could bend for innovation, that intention could excuse imperfection. He once told a reporter, "You can build a perfect system if you move fast enough." For a while, it seemed true. FTX dominated markets, drew millions of users, and made Sam a billionaire on paper. He stood at the center of a storm of money, logic, and blind faith, unaware that beneath the surface, the foundation was already shifting. Success had become his reality. Doubt was a language he no longer spoke. In November 2022, silence replaced the noise. Screens that once flashed green turned red. The empire that had promised trust began to shake from within. It started with a single article, a leaked balance sheet, suggesting that Alameda Research, the firm Sam founded before FTX, was built not on solid assets, but on tokens created by FTX itself. It was a circular mirror value feeding on illusion. Within days, confidence cracked. Traders began withdrawing funds. Billions left the platform overnight. And for the first time, FTX couldn't answer the simplest question. Where is the money? Inside the penthouse in Nassau, the mood turned heavy. The same rooms that once buzzed with caffeine and confidence now echoed with the sound of typing and disbelief. Sam walked from desk to desk, searching for explanations that no spreadsheet could provide. He believed there must be a fix, a formula, a negotiation, a deal. But the math no longer worked. The numbers were gone. The trust was gone. By November 11, FTX filed for bankruptcy under Chapter 11. Employees packed their things. Investors vanished. The company that had been worth $30 billion only months before now had a hole in its balance sheet, billions missing, unaccounted for, scattered across accounts no one could trace. The public turned overnight. Headlines once calling him the genius of crypto now read the architect of chaos. Politicians distanced themselves. Celebrities deleted tweets. Sam went from the world's youngest billionaire to its most infamous criminal suspect. In December, Bahamian authorities arrived at his apartment. He was arrested quietly, wearing a plain t-shirt and shorts. No jet, no entourage, no applause. Just handcuffs and silence. The U.S. Department of Justice charged him with wire fraud, conspiracy, and misuse of customer funds. The number attached to those accusations: billions. At the trial in November 2023, Sam sat in court listening as former colleagues described the empire he built and how it fell. He barely moved. He tried to explain that it wasn't greed, that he believed the money would return, that the system would self-correct. But belief doesn't pay back billions. Logic doesn't erase betrayal. On the 28th of March 2024, the verdict came: guilty on all counts. 25 years in federal prison. The courtroom was silent as the sentence was read. Outside, the world debated whether he was a villain or a visionary who lost control of his creation. In his final statement, he said softly, "I made a lot of mistakes, but I never thought I was stealing." For a man who once moved markets with a tweet, it was the quietest moment of his life. The story of FTX had ended not with a crash, but with the slow realization that the empire never had foundations, only faith. And faith, once broken, can't be rebuilt with code. In America, ambition is almost a religion. It rewards those who move fast, who take risks, who believe the future belongs to the bold. It built Silicon Valley, turned garage ideas into empires, and made overnight billionaires feel inevitable. Sam Bankman-Fried grew up in that world one where risk was not danger but destiny. In the American imagination, failure is not a flaw. It is proof that you tried. That's why investors loved Sam. He looked like the next chapter of the American dream, a disheveled genius rewriting finance with math instead of greed. His story had all the right symbols: youth, intellect, altruism, and speed. He wasn't selling crypto. He was selling conviction. And conviction sells well in a culture built on belief. But when FTX fell, America saw its reflection bright, restless, and blind to its own velocity. The same system that celebrated innovation forgot to ask whether it was sustainable. The same investors who once praised disruption now demanded oversight. Suddenly, move fast and break things didn't sound like progress, it sounded like confession. Across the ocean, the reaction was quieter, colder. In Japan, financial regulators tightened compliance laws within weeks. In Europe, headlines turned philosophical. If code is trust, who writes the code? Governments demanded audits, independent reserves, tangible proof that money wasn't just data dressed as value. In Singapore, once the shining hub of digital finance, investors whispered new words: caution, verification, separation. The global response revealed something fundamental: that America's optimism often underestimates the fragility of faith. While the West celebrates risk-takers, much of the world builds systems to survive them. In Asia, discipline is not control, it's memory. In Europe, transparency is not bureaucracy, it's protection. And in America, freedom often becomes the excuse for speed. Sam's story bridged these worlds. He built a company that operated everywhere but belonged nowhere. FTX was digital, borderless, frictionless, and so was its collapse. When it fell, it didn't just erase wealth, it erased illusions. Investors in Seoul, London, and Sao Paulo learned the same painful truth: innovation without integrity is just chaos in a suit. For the US, the lesson cut deeper. This wasn't just about crypto, it was about the country's faith in genius. America has always believed that brilliance can fix what it breaks. But sometimes, the smartest man in the room needs guardrails, not applause. The rest of the world watched, both fascinated and vindicated. They saw that even in the most advanced markets, trust remains the most fragile currency. The fall of FTX became a global parable, not about technology, but about temperament. Because progress without reflection is just acceleration. And no matter where you are, New York, Tokyo, or Berlin, the math of reality never changes. Without transparency, freedom becomes fiction. In the quiet that followed the trial, the world moved on. Markets recovered, new platforms emerged, and crypto found its next narrative. But for Sam Bankman-Fried, time stopped. Inside a cell built for reflection, he finally lived in a world that couldn't be optimized or automated. There were no markets to predict, no algorithms to bend, only silence and the weight of what belief can destroy. He had once imagined freedom as the power to build without limits. Now, freedom meant something smaller, a few steps in a yard, a letter from a friend, a night's sleep without the glow of a screen. The boy who once spoke of saving the world had become a man learning to live without saving himself. And yet, his story refuses to fade. Because beneath the numbers and the noise, there was always a question worth asking. What happens when good intentions outrun accountability? The world of finance, shaken but not broken, began to look inward. Regulators demanded clarity. Investors asked new questions. Founders learned that transparency isn't a rule, it's survival. The myth of the flawless genius gave way to a quieter truth. Wealth doesn't need brilliance, it needs discipline. Sam's legacy is not the empire he built or the billions he lost. It's the mirror he left behind, a reflection of how easy it is to mistake speed for progress, confidence for competence, and ideals for immunity. His fall became the cautionary tale for a generation that thought technology could outsmart trust. But maybe that's how evolution works, through failure that teaches, and through noise that finally makes people listen. Because every collapse carries a message, whispered beneath the wreckage. Slow down, check the numbers, separate the truth from the story. One day, someone will build again differently, carefully, quietly. And when they do, they'll remember that transparency isn't just about showing data, it's about showing doubt. Sam's empire ended in chaos, but his lesson endures in silence. He didn't lose money, he lost the illusion that control was freedom.